All right, welcome to my first recorded draft with audio. This is going to be a Legacy Cube draft. So, just a bit of background. I have had my own cube that I've been developing and playing since 2008. So I have quite a bit of experience with, this kind of thing. My cube is a Legacy Cube also. A little bit. It's always been a little different from the MTGO cube, and haven't really had a huge amount of success with the MTGO cube. So I guess just because I have my own cube doesn't mean that I, necessarily know exactly how to draft this cube optimally. In this pack, we've got Jace the Mind Sculptor. Don't see any reason why that would not just be the best possible pick. But we'll look at a couple other options. There's Batter Skull, which is strong equipment, especially if you can search it up. And then a couple other planeswalkers that are obviously not at the level of Jace. Godless Shrine is a good option to fix mana. I really like Sheldred as well. And then Animate Dead would be a good option for a reanimation strategy. Okay, so we have, first thing is no blue cards. If you're trying to lay claim to the blue strategies, then obviously it's going to be important to send a strong signal that you're staking your ground. That doesn't seem to be obvious. Well, we're not going to be able to grab a blue card from this pack, but we can look at other options. In the cube, I always like to be doing powerful things. So looking at some of the powerful cards, if I want to go the blue-white control route, I might be able to I could take Angel of Serenity. I could take Brimaz for a little bit of a more tempo-oriented game. Avenger of Zendikar is strong in a green ramp deck, which works nicely with blue as well. Lots of powerful things to do in blue with lots of mana, like Upheaval. I'm looking at Brimaz and Avenger right now. Solemn Simulacrum is strong. I'm not looking to go burn at this point. I think I'll go with the Brimaz. I think maybe try. Well, we'll see. Let's not play it as it goes, I suppose. Okay, so looking at Ral Zarek, another Planeswalker, has this -2 to deal 3 damage to target creature. That's going to be, the main reason to play this. I don't anticipate -7, and then +1, maybe just generate some tempo. So really, it's more of something that has a Lightning Bolt with some potential value, but Lightning Bolt is actually quite strong. Looking at some other cards, not too interested in Pact of Negation. Blood Crypt and Stomping Ground don't intersect with the colors I currently have. Condemn is maybe a strong card against an opposing aggro deck. Maybe goes well with some of the cards I already have. And then there's Ral Zarek. I guess I'm not too excited about Ral Zarek. I'll take Condemn. That might be wrong. It's very tricky. This sort of drafting. I'm looking at Steam Vents and Watery Grave. Very appealing to have access to some of this mana fixing, especially with blue and with our Jace. I think blue-red is probably the strongest color to bring in some of that mana fixing. Red is often very open. You get some nice burn spells that complement some of the other blue control elements nicely. So I'm leaning towards the Steam Vents right now. Some other options, Sarkhan and Nissa are decent planeswalkers. Lotus Cobra would be a good choice for a ramp deck, as well as Mystic Snake. So if we had taken that Avenger of Zendikar, we could have another direction to head. Now I'm looking at Seagate Oracle or Hallowed Fountain. I think Hallowed Fountain, Monastery Mentor would both be really good choices for this blue-white deck that we're building. I have not actually never played with Monastery Mentor, my cube. I haven't actually played it in a year or so. I don't have some of the newer cards. So I don't know if I want to be, if I really get all the tools for a blue-white tempo deck, I don't necessarily need the Hallowed Fountain if I'm going to be just 2 colors. Monastery Mentor seems like it would be a strong choice if I have access to some bounce, some counter spells, some removal. So let's go with Monastery Mentor. So balance is exactly what I was just talking about. Mana War, I think, is a strong card even in the cube. Obviously, it's a staple of limited formats. But I think it also works very well here. I'm not interested in Elite Vanguard or Land and Relic Warder, at least not on the same level. So this really fits with what I'm trying to do. So I'll go ahead and grab that, cut off blue going forward. Okay, so some interesting choices here. Armageddon, you know, reasonably fits into what I'm trying to do, I think. If I am trying to do a tempo-oriented deck. It's not even if I can get a Jace down and bounce a creature, maybe get rid of it somehow, and then play Armageddon. That's not maybe that's not in itself a plan. Something else I could look at is War Leader's Helix or Kithian. I think I'm going to grab Armageddon. It's a very powerful card. So I really am looking to have some low-cost creatures here to go with my Armageddon, and then maybe just use some of the power available to blue to control the pace of the game while I do this sort of white aggro thing. White aggro is not a great strategy typically. Hopefully, by bringing in some of the extra power of blue, I can make it work. So I'm looking at Dismember, very powerful colorless removal card. Blade Splicer and Porcelain Legionnaire would actually both fit in my deck well, but I really think Dismember is the pick. Okay, so I'm looking at Old Man of the Sea. Let's take a look at this. Power less than or equal to 2, basically. I don't anticipate being able to buff his power, but that's actually not, I think that's not negligible. There's also Karmic Guide, but I like the lower mana cost here. I'm going to take Fiend Hunter over Angel of Serenity. I do have lots of 3-drops, but more 3-drops is still better than a 7-drop. Doesn't look like I'm going to be mana ramping, which is unfortunate, because mana ramping is basically always what you want to be doing in the cube. Tangle Wire would also be a good choice. Actually, Tangle Wire might be better here. It probably goes well with Monastery Mentor and Brimaz, so I'm going to grab that. I don't really think anything here is going to get played, so I'll grab this Stomping Ground. Pick up a land tax just in case. Seal of Fire, I have maybe a way to splash red, and the Shock is perfectly fine. We'll take that Elite Vanguard. It goes well with Armageddon. And Greater Gargadon is not unplayable. So I think in cube you always have to be aware of, you're going to be grabbing these random powerful cards like Greater Gargadon. You really want to stay creative, stay aware of your options as the draft continues. You can always pivot directions and try something different. So we want to take a look at land tax, try and work through what our options are. But I guess we don't necessarily have time for that. So let's take a look here. I think we're really focused on this blue-white just because of Jace. Really, Jace is so powerful. Greater Gargadon and Seal of Fire, don't add a lot to that. I think, let's see. So Chromatic Lantern is just a very good card, especially, I just really like this card. We have a color-intensive deck. We're going to be destroying lands, so Chromatic Lantern works well with Armageddon, potentially creating even 2 mana. This will help us cast Jace, Brimaz, Old Man of the Sea with their heavy mana cost. It'll help us save some life on Dismember. It'll allow us to splash red if we need to. There's really nothing on the same power level in white or blue. Emeria Angel I think is good, but there's, this is the kind of card that there's plenty of replacements for in the cube. Chromatic Lantern kind of stand on its own. I don't think Show and Tell is what we're going to be doing here, so this seems like the pick. Okay, Ajani, let's take a look at Ajani. What would we be using this for? Really just buffing our own creatures, which isn't really our plan, I don't think. So let's take a look at some other options. Maybe Repeal, give us some tempo while maintaining our card count. Young Pyromancer, if we wanted to go in more of a 3-color direction. And Isamaru, if we want to focus more on the white beatdown aspect of our deck. I don't actually love Repeal, but it does seem to be one of our main options here. There's also Stratus Dancer. I've never played Stratus Dancer in Cube. Countering an instant or sorcery, that's definitely a reasonable thing to be doing. But 5 mana before we get to that point. I think maybe Repeal is going to fit more into what we're trying to do. It'll trigger Prowess for our Monastery Mentor. Not that that's a huge added bonus, but I think between this and Isamaru, I'm not actually. I think I'm trying to do a little bit more control than I am just straight up beatdown. But Precinct Captain is still the kind of card that fits in. You don't need a whole slew of creatures. You stick one of these value creatures, and then hopefully control the game otherwise. There's Jace, Architect of Thought. Again, it's kind of casting this mini Fact or Fiction, hopefully twice, maybe just once. I don't know this card. When you draw a card, put a counter. When it dies, squids. I think Precinct Captain is probably a better version of that. And then Terminus. Gosh, I think I like Precinct Captain. I think I like this idea of having a few creatures that just churn out value, and then hopefully using some other cards or Armageddon to take over the game. And it's my first 2-drop as well. All right, I'm looking at Parallax Wave. This is just a great tempo-oriented card. I think there's the interaction between Repeal and Parallax Wave is something to look at. So let's try to remember how this works. So I believe what you do is that's right. So you remove all the fade counters, and then you bounce it with the exile trigger on the stack. That's right. So you hold priority, you exile the creatures, and then with all of those triggers on the stack, you play Repeal. Windswept Heath. We'll not grab anything at the moment, even though we'll grab a Stomping Ground. So I could use Windswept Heath to fix red, in addition to my Steam Vents. It's not negligible at all. It's really important to get those, but I think Parallax Wave actually significantly adds to what I'm trying to do here. Miscalculation, I think, fits into my plan. If I can get a Precinct Captain down, leaving Miscalculation up is gonna help to solidify that advantage. Let's take a look at Spear of Heliod. If I was going more in the traditional white direction, Legacy's Allure. That's a pretty reasonable card. I think that's a reasonable card to play on turn 2. That really, makes their options look a lot worse. And then, of course, Entreat. I think I like Miscalculation. I like the cycling. I like where it fits into my deck. Really good options here. I really do like having mana fixing for every deck. It's just, consistency is very important. Journey to Nowhere, obviously, really great as well with this controlling plan. I'm going to maybe take a... I think Journey to Nowhere just fits in really well with I think I'm going to assume I'm going straight blue-white at this point. So maybe the fixing isn't as important, although it definitely still is with Jace, Parallax Wave, Brimaz, Precinct Captain. Actually, with Precinct Captain, I already have 16 maybe reasonable cards. Let's go ahead and grab this land. I'm going to assume I'm going to be able to fill out my playables in a way that works well enough. So that already kind of makes me feel a little better. Face Fetters is good in a tempo deck. Takes care of any permanent threat, even a Planeswalker. And then I don't need Silverblade Paladin. I'm not really focusing on a go wide strategy, although it is very strong. I'm just trying to generate that advantage. Creatures the chosen color. I could choose white creatures there. And then raise the alarm, put a couple of creature tokens. I think I'll just take City of Brass. Really nothing here that's very interesting. Emeria Angel and Threads of Disloyalty came back. That's a good sign. Those were 2 other cards I would have considered besides the Chromatic Lantern early on. Let's take a look at this. Emeria Angel, just again, another creature that creates its own army. I can play this and play a land and have 2 creatures. I think that's very appealing. Threads of Disloyalty might not have any targets in some decks, so I'm inclined to take Emeria Angel. I think I like, actually, Isamaru better than Ajani. You know, I think 1-drops are still going to be fine. Yeah, I think I like Isamaru. I have to think about land tax when I'm building. I know that this is a card that could, you know, potentially have. Um, maybe I need Kami more than Terminus, but Terminus really, you know, gives me options against maybe certain types of decks. You can see Cube is just so difficult to try and imagine how your deck's going to play against every other deck out there. I don't know anything about this card. Choose 3. You may choose the same one multiple times. Gain life. Oh wow! So I'm really the only white player, which is great. Hopefully I can pick up just enough blue to give me the extra power I need. I don't think I need Spear at all. You know, because so many of my single creatures are powerful enough that I'll take Dark Ritual. So many of my single creatures are powerful enough that you know, it's not like I'm relying on 2/1s where having this thing stick around. All right, I think Jace is the way to go here. Although Temple of Enlightenment also, you know, given that I already have 22, you know, maybe playable cards, I'm certainly going to be getting more. But I think it's a near certainty that Temple of Enlightenment will wheel. If I do take Jace, I really do need fixing because I'll have several double whites and double blues at 4 or less. I don't think I need Archangel. I think this is, you know, this theme I started claiming I don't need buffing on my creatures. I think that's not the direction I'm going. We'll see if that's actually true. I'll try and pay attention during the games to see if, you know, if my game plan would really benefit from having some extra buffness on my guys. But I'm going to go with Jace. Kind of hard to take a card called Jace and really feel like you did the wrong thing. Path to Exile, again, I think I have more of a tempo-oriented game plan. Obviously, you get some loss of tempo with Path to Exile as your opponent untaps with more mana. But you know, I think that's a better choice than another 2/1 or something. I may only have one creature out at a time. So Phantasmal Image, while strong, definitely playable, doesn't really give me the flexibility of Path to Exile. Soulfire Grandmaster just seems like the kind of card I want. I guess, you know, this is a Jeskai type deck. Soulfire Grandmaster is a card you play. I actually haven't played Standard with this card, but I'm interested in trying it out. I like Lifelink. I guess it's really the best with burn cards. I'm not playing any burn, so maybe something like Master of Waves is better. Maybe Unexpectedly Absent is better. Maybe I only have 8 creatures at this point. So I really don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here. Devotion to Blue. I'm not necessarily going to have Devotion to Blue, so I think I'm going to go with one of the white cards. Maybe Soulfire Grandmaster is the way to go. Although this is a tempo. We'll take this because I think maybe that'll give me the tempo I need. That was maybe not a great pick considering. All right, this is an interesting guy to go with. Precinct Captain, Monastery Mentor, Brimaz are all churning out creatures. Actually, all of my creatures that I have so far work well with Mentor of the Meek. It's not a card I've really ever been interested in drafting in any other deck. So I wouldn't, you know, it's not normally a card I would be drawn to. I think it's just notable that I have several token makers that would trigger this, maybe allow me to generate some card advantage. On the other hand, Council's Judgment just exiles a card of my choice. Whoa! Okay, I actually didn't mean to take that, but I guess that makes my choice easier. Moloku is another 1-card plan, and then Gideon Ali is Zendikar. Gideon must be better. Must be better card. Brago fits my colors. This doesn't look like an interesting card. That's more of a combo with some comes into play things. So I think Gideon is definitely the way to go there. Powerful Planeswalker. Really looking for that blue-white Temple to come back. I can't imagine anyone else's blue-white at this point since I've wheeled every white card. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else. I could take a Clifftop Retreat in case I need to bring in a Seal of Fire. I actually don't imagine I'll be playing Spectral Possession, so I'll go ahead and do that. And then along those lines, well, Revel Arc 2. This could bring back a Swift Spear and a Mana War. I do only have 8 creatures currently, which is actually kind of troubling. I could also just grab a Looter. I don't really have any discard plan though, so it would really only be fixing my mana, and then finally there's Oust. Again, I don't love the life gain, although I already have a card like that. I think I've lost my way a little bit. Drafting Cube is hard. I could also just grab a Flame Slash because I can almost splash red freely. I think I like... Gosh. I've now just only grabbed a few... Yeah, this would be a good draft to go back and revisit. I think grabbing that Clifftop Retreat confused me a little bit, but with City of Brass, Clifftop Retreat, and Steam Vents, you know, there's a reasonable, and Chromatic Lantern, it's reasonable to just kind of play any red card. And actually, I think Staggershock fits better. I should have looked at Brutal Explosion, obviously. Well, I can just go ahead and play Sacred Foundry, and at this point, it's pretty much free to play my red cards. The alternative being Champion of the Parish, I think. But I'll go ahead and grab Sacred Foundry, and then now I have this extra 2/1 creature. Now the Soulfire Grandmaster looks stronger. Well, there's also Battlefield Forge. But actually, now this looks good. I think I'm gonna play a few burn spells. So let's go ahead and grab that. Let's grab Mentor of the Meek. Brago's on our colors. Exquisite Firecraft has double red, so we won't be playing it. And our last pick. So this is, this just shows why it's so important to always understand, and I'm not saying I did a great job of this, but to always understand what kind of things you have available in your pool, because, even in the last, depending on what the rest of the table is doing, the last 6 cards of pack 3 could contain the seed of a powerful deck. And, this might be not the most powerful thing you could be doing, but, having this red plan actually I think changes our outlook quite a bit. So we have a very easy time playing red. We don't have to devote a single slot to a mountain. So if we want, if we like the way Flame Slash, Staggershock, Soulfire Grandmaster fit into our deck, then there's no reason we shouldn't be playing it. Now, that said, I have 34 cards in my main deck. Let's take a look at land tax. This card is, I just don't really remember when it's good. I think last time, when I played it in the past, it was just more, oh, this is a good card, so I will play it. But I think it warrants trying to figure out how it fits into our strategy. I think you can reasonably just bring this in whenever you're on the draw. Especially with a tempo deck that's going to be trying to use all its mana, I don't feel interested in taking a land drop off ever. But I think this is maybe a card you sideboard every time on the draw. That seems right to me. 3 basic lands seems very good. But we'll assume we're on the play. We'll assume it's not worth a 50-50 shot. Alright, I'm going to take out some of the cards that don't seem to fit into our plan. Our plan being get maybe 1 or 2 creatures out, and then control what's going on until that creature is such a big threat that our opponent has to use multiple cards to deal with it, and maybe continue in that way. I think that with Chromatic Lantern as one of my cards, I can afford to play 23 spells. So I do think we have a nice tempo plan. Maybe I'll bring in Mentor if the matchup seems like one you know, typically games are going to be fast. I'm not going to have extra mana sitting around, but we'll see. This unexpectedly absent repeal sort of fit with a tempo-oriented plan. Council's Judgment is just non-conditional removal. I think I still like Armageddon. Oh, Bragos doesn't need to be in there. Maybe Seal of Fire is just a shock. So then my red would just be Staggershock and Flame Slash. Still nice removal, nice burn, nice to get back with Soulfire Grandmaster, whereas this actually doesn't even get the lifelink. And then I actually like my control elements a lot, such that I may be more interested in cutting down some of these 1-drops and relying more on my value-generating creatures. So I've done only 8 creatures, so maybe that's not wise. Maybe I do need to stick a creature on turn 1. So actually, I'm going to leave all those there. I think maybe Condemn. Now I have so many control elements and tempo elements that Condemn is looking less like the strongest one. Although I do have more that cost more. So let's take Condemn out. Because reasonably these 2 cards could be at 2 or 3. And then find 1 more. So I think just Gideon and Jace, you just have to play. Armageddon, my curve is low. If my opponent's if I stick a 1-drop, my opponent's ramping out some lands even. That's reasonable. If I stick a Brimaz, that gets even better. So these 3 are sticking. Parallax Wave interacting with Repeal, interacting with Unexpectedly Absent. So that I can just play this for 2. That feels really good. Face Fetters is also essential, I think. So I think I need all those. I could take out the red plan. It's hard finding this last cut. I do like my burn. It feels very reasonable to play with the amount of fixing I have. So I don't think I need to take it out just because it's red. Jace Beleren, Dismember, maybe Tanglewire. Gosh, this is why Cube is so hard. Really, every card here just looks like it's going to contribute something valuable to my game plan. That doesn't mean I'm even considering playing 16 lands, even with the Chromatic Lantern. I could play 17 lands, play 41 cards. I've heard respected people say things like that. Repeal, I think it just does a lot. All right. Maybe Manowar. Maybe Manowar is the card. Still only 8 creatures. It feels like I just can't take a creature out. Chromatic Lantern is even more important. I think Tanglewire is the card. I think my control elements are such that actually it's not. Yeah, I think I'm going to take out Tanglewire. That's a hard choice. I think that's a card I'm going to be looking at bringing in. So really, this is a white deck. I do try to hit blue pretty early on for Jace and Jace. Let's look at my non-white. So these are white. I've got 3 that create blue. 2 of those create white. So really, I can afford to bring in a few islands. I don't think I need any mountains. Certainly don't need that. Don't need that. All right. So with 3 islands, I've got Darker Way, City of Brass, Steam Vents, 3 islands, and a Chromatic Lantern for 7 blue sources. That doesn't get me to Jace on turn 3. I'll have 8 planes, a Darker Way, City of Brass, Temple of Trial. Okay, I don't need 8 planes. So let's go up to 4 blue sources. And then I think I could even maybe go to 6 planes. With 6 planes, I've got my 3 red-white lands, so that's 9. City of Brass is 10. Adarkar Wastes is 11. Chromatic Lantern is 12 white sources. And then with 5 blue sources, in addition to the other 4, I now have 9 blue sources. Now I can certainly hit Jace on turn 3. So I think that's our deck. All right, join you in round 1.